Welcome to our Spotlight Breakfast Series, sponsored by WealthSouth. Appreciate you all getting up early this morning to come out. I don't know about you, but there was a moment or two I thought I may be very late because the traffic was like bumper to bumper to bumper. But all of a sudden, the clouds split, the waves split, and I was here. So we appreciate you all taking time to be here. We got a really interesting program this morning. And also, always like to thank Carperu. This is a cool place, easy to get to, and they're just great people to work with, and they always have excellent food. So thank you all very much. I want to thank WealthSouth. The Spotlight has been a program that they have sponsored with us for years, and it's a more intimate crowd that, quite frankly, has a lot heavier topics. Now, you look at a topic like today, and I say heavy, it's just such a serious thing that, quite frankly, we're fortunate to have the police department we have and all the folks there, because they build relationships out in the community, and we've had a wonderful relationship over the years. So when they came to us about this particular project, our ears were all open, and we're going through a remodel, so we're working with putting in cameras and that. Well, we got the cameras in, but we're trying to figure out now how to get all linked in and get all set up to go. Because all of us working together, especially in the whole area of crime, and crime can hit anywhere at any time. But dealing with that issue is very important to every community, and in particular to our safeties is number one. So again, I want to thank WealthSouth for your long-time ongoing sponsorship and your vision for how this event could be impactful. And I want to have Jeff Zinger come up. He's the lending manager, growth markets, and senior VP of WealthSouth to make a few comments. Jeff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Like Bob said, my name is Jeff Zinger. I'm a senior vice president with WealthSouth. We're proud to partner with Commerce Lexington to host the Spotlight Series event. And really excited to shine a light on crime prevention here in Lexington and safety protocols that we can have for businesses. WealthSouth is part of Farmers National Bank out of Danville. Farmers National Bank is 144 years old. WealthSouth's been in this community for close to 11 years now, and it's really important for us to give back to our community, partner with local organizations, and have events like this. So we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to the topic this morning. So thank you again to the Lexington Police Department.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so we are going to hear from representatives of the Lexington Police Department as they highlight safety and crime prevention in our community, including the FLOC and FUSUS projects and information on how businesses can better secure their property. Now I'm going to turn the program over to someone that we know well. He is so plugged in and involved with Commerce Lexington in many different ways through programs. And he's just an all-around great guy, as will be the folks he introduces. But I want to turn this over to the Assistant Chief, Bureau of Patrol in the Lexington Police Department, Brian Maynard. There he is.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. Like Mr. Quick said, my name is Brian Maynard. It's a pleasure being here. Several of you have heard us speak on this topic, and we keep expanding it. But today I got a little special group here with us. This is kind of our celebrity dream team. The only person we're missing out of that celebrity group is Chief Weathers. He was unable to stop by, but I'll introduce them and have them kind of take over their group. Commander Matt Greathouse has been with the department for 24 years, Academy classmate of mine, so we've been through it since the beginning. Badge Towery has been on for 27 years. He's kind of our true celebrity. We've started a new program called Lex PD, Your Lex PD. It's a new out on our social media, so you may have seen that episode. If not, go to our Facebook page, you'll be able to see that. And the detective, Kristen Klingshern, is with our Bluegrass Crime Stoppers. So all three of them are going to participate this morning, but we'll go ahead and have Commander Greathouse and Badge Towery go ahead and come up. Commander Greathouse is going to be second on our program. He'll talk about a lot with our FUSUS and our technology, which has been in the media quite a bit, and about how you can get involved with that. And the Badge Towery is with our community services group. So he is going to talk about how you can strengthen the security around your own property, your buildings, and some of the opportunities that our community services provide with that. We're going to open up for lots of questions. Doesn't have to be on this topic, so we'll dance as much as we need to at the end on those. So thank you for your attention. Badge?
Good morning. You got me? All right. I usually don't use microphones because I'm very, very loud, right? But we need this for camera purposes today. So my name is Badge Towery. I've been with the police department, as Chief said, for 27 years. Done a lot of different things for the police department. Currently, I'm in the Bureau of Special Operations with Community Services section, and I also serve as a tactical flight officer with our helicopter unit. Over the years, I have worked with most businesses in Lexington when we talk about crime prevention issues. And it all comes down to safety, because I don't care whether you're selling, whether you're manufacturing, whatever your business is, whatever your commerce is, it all comes down to safety. Nothing else matters unless you're safe, right? We want our employees to be safe, and we want our clients or our customers to be safe. And that's where I come in to play many times. We're going to give you a brief synopsis today of what we can do for you if you choose to have us come out. Some things for you to be thinking about. Typically, when we come out and do an assessment, we look at a lot of different functions of your organization and of your facility. Ultimately, we're looking at premises liability issues, because you are responsible for what happens on your property. Many times we talk with human resources when we talk about negligent hiring and retention. We also look at foreseeability factors. These are all things that you need to be aware of as far as your property. Your property, if there's a similar property in Colorado and something happens, you're responsible to know that that could potentially happen at your property. So we'll come out, we'll do an assessment. Some of the things that we're looking for: everything from entry, egress, access control, who's coming and going, notification purposes, if we do have something happen on our property, the safety of the property. And that comes down to everything from landscaping to lighting, just a lot of different variables with that. And I never thought 27 years ago when I came on the police department I'd be talking about landscaping. But that's something we look at, because your parking lots, all those things are very important. If you were to have an event, if you were to have a personal robbery or something like that occur in your parking lot, and you're not compliant in certain issues as far as landscaping and lighting compliance, ultimately that could result in civil litigation. So we look at some liability issues for you as well. All of these things are and if you're a retail organization, we're looking at potential loss, potential inventory shrinkage, internal thefts, shoplifting, different things like that. We look at facility robbery potentials and go through and look at some of those things as well. But the big topic that we have done more programs than any other program that I present over the last several years has been workplace violence. Because every type of industry out there has experienced some type of workplace violence across the United States. And it's something that we have to take very, very seriously. So we can come in when we do the assessment and we look at a lot of those types of factors as well, the potentials that are out there. And I'll tell you, one of the largest deficiencies that we find with organizations are policies and procedures. And we don't want a facility to write a volume of policies, because let's face it, when you have that in place, no one reads it and no one retains it. We want you to be simple with that. We don't write policies and procedures for you, but we'll make recommendations. We'll look at what you have and point out any deficiencies that you have. The other thing is, if your employees aren't aware of what to do, the policy may be in place, but if we don't have best practice in place, it doesn't matter. So we'll help you look at some of those things as well. You know, everybody wants to talk about active shooter events. And most police departments across the country do not do active shooter, and I refer to them as active situation, because it doesn't always have to be a shooter, right? We had an event right here in Lexington down at Transylvania's campus several years ago that involved a machete. It wasn't a gun. In today's world, we have to worry about vehicular attacks and things like that at different types of facilities. So it's not, I don't refer to it as an active shooter, I refer to it as an active situation. So we'll come in and do an assessment on that, but we also can provide you a free staff development program. It's typically about an hour and a half, and we come in and we look at a lot of different things. We go back into history. We start typically at around 1966 with the clock tower at University of Texas. And then we fast forward to events that happened right here in Kentucky, like Standard Gravure in Louisville, Kentucky. And I had the opportunity several years ago to actually meet with the former chief of police in Louisville and talk with him about this event and what led up to it, and all the factors that lead into many of these types of events, many times involving mental health and so forth. We had one of the first major school shootings here at Heath High School here in Kentucky. But everything changed in 1999 on April 20th, Columbine. Ironically, Hitler's birthday, which is why they chose that date. But Columbine changed everything. And the main thing it changed was what police departments do. And I'll tell you, Lexington was very similar to any other police department around the United States up until that event, where we would, typically department's policy was we would form a perimeter around an event, a situation, and we would wait for our SWAT team. The average active shooter event lasts somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes. Now, depending on where you are in the facility, it could last 30 seconds. But police departments around the United States realize that we do not have time to wait for a SWAT team. We have to react immediately. So Lexington was one of the first, actually, around the United States that trained every one of our police officers, and I was involved in this when we did it, probably around 2000, 2001. We trained every single police officer, and have continuously done so since then, about how to react and how to respond to an active situation. So when we come in and do our staff development, no, we're not going to be talking tactics, and no, we're not going to be giving you specifics about what we're going to do. But what we are going to do in that training is talk about expectations. What we need you to know that we're going to do, basics, and what we need you to do. And the good thing about our training classes is that it is applicable in every part of your life. So it's not just when you're at work. If you're at the grocery store, you're at the mall, you're at a church, you're at a movie theater, wherever you are, the things we need you to do are going to be the same wherever you are. So it's beneficial for your employees, not just at work, but across the board in their life. So when we come in and do the assessment, we'll look, like I said, at a lot of different things. And every specific business, every specific facility has different concerns. And typically we will point out concerns that you may not have had before we got there. We're not there to cost you a lot of money. Many of the facilities that I go into have budget constraints, they have fiscal concerns, and we may do some type of phasing where we'll give you the priorities. I would do this first, then in next fiscal year, maybe look at this. We'll help you prioritize some of those things. But ultimately, it all comes down to keeping your employees safe and keeping your customers and your clients safe. It's a free service, so feel free to reach out to us about that, and we can come out and take a look at your facility. A lot of what you're going to be talking about today is what's on everybody's mind, and that's technology, right? And Commander Greathouse is going to be talking a lot about that here in just a few seconds. And when we come out and do the assessment, speaking of technology, one of the big problems we find is camera placement, incorrect placement, areas of concern that are not covered, things like that. So be thinking about that in the back of your mind too, about your facility. And if we come out and do an assessment, we may be able to help with that. And obviously, I'll be around for some questions after we're finished. Thank you.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all having us here. My name is Matt Greathouse. I've been with the department for 24 years. Brian and I were classmates, so we've been here for the long haul. So I'm going to give you about an hour and a half's presentation in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to hit some highlights and kind of go fast, and then I'll have some time for questions at the end. So I was given the great opportunity to institute the technology that I'm going to talk about here a couple years ago by the chief. And so it started about 2.5 years ago. We started looking at, trying to stay in the right spot. So we started looking at our traffic camera. Our traffic camera network here in Lexington has been built over 20 years, and it's pretty robust. Costs a lot of money. So we didn't want to ask the city to spend $10 or $15 million for our own. Why can't we just piggyback off of that? So those have not been recorded up until this year. And I can't tell you how many times Chief Maynard was in homicide for several years as a lieutenant, and I can tell you how many different incidents we've had at intersections where a camera would have been extremely beneficial, because you might be surprised that we have large numbers of people that are involved in violent crimes or any crimes in general, and I would give anybody a guess, 3 of them, how many people do you think stay around and give us any information? 0. We could have this whole room be full of 50 people, somebody could get shot right here and nobody saw anything. Well, that's difficult for the victim and the victim's family, for us to try to find justice for them. So we started exploring what it would look like to record our traffic cams. Most of those over the years have been very, very, very cost prohibitive. The server space was very expensive. Just getting it set up was very, very, very cost prohibitive. But over the years, that cost has come dramatically down. So we started looking at that. Right about that same time, flock of LPRs came online, and they approached us and asked us if we'd like to participate in a nationwide study conducted by the National Police Institute on the effects of LPRs, which are license plate reader cameras, and their effect on crime. And like any good drug dealer is what I say, they gave us the first 25 for free. So they said, absolutely, would you like to participate? So if it's free, it's for us. We'll take it. So we put those in. We had done a lot of studies. I talked to a lot of different police departments throughout the country. It started on the West Coast and migrated east, and talked to them about what they saw. And the number one thing I heard was, as soon as you put them up, you better have a plan for how you're going to expand, because you're going to want more of them. And I'm like, okay, great. I've been around technology or buying things for the agency for 20-some years. I've heard a lot of salesman voodoo, and I've seen a lot of products that we buy that didn't actually pay dividends. And more of those were very specific to one group or the other within the agency. We got our first cameras in, I think, March. I think the first one went up March of 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago. And within 24 hours, we had our first stolen car. Within 48 hours, we had like 2 other stolen cars. We had 2 cameras up at that time. And so immediately I knew, it was like, okay, this is probably going to be something. So we asked the council, and I'm going to go ahead and thank all them and the mayor right now for their support for us and support for the technology, because without them, this would not have happened. But we got an estimate what we thought. We were probably going to want about 100 cameras in our community. That was about the size that we saw from other communities in the United States. That was about what we saw. And we focused on violent crime when we did this. So we did a study. We looked at our census data, and we looked at all of our reported violent crimes. So not officer initiated. Those are the people that called and said, I got shot, I got raped, I got robbed, I got stalked, I got strangled, things like that. And we only looked at a very few of those crimes. We didn't look at all of our crime data. And we placed our cameras according to that, because that's where we needed to focus. And I can tell you, after we got our 25 cameras up, we already saw that this is something that we need to expand. We have holes in our community that are not being covered, specifically on the south end of town, that we knew not most, there was a lot of our folks that are players in the violent crime realm, and they were migrating south because there weren't any cameras. They were already starting to talk about it. So we asked for that expansion in late last year, and we got approval for that. We rolled out 75 additional cameras for a total of 100, what we have here in the community now. The impact we thought we were going to see was going to be on violent crime, but I can tell you what we've seen is it impacts every single crime in our community. Hit and runs, we have about 250 hit and runs per month in our community. We have 2 detectives that work those. So how would you like to have your car hit and then have absolutely no way to get any kind of monetary repercussion back for you to get your car fixed? That's a big thing. Most of us in here probably have more than one car. A large segment of our community does not. So one car takes them completely out of commission. They can't go to the doctor, can't go to the grocery, can't take kids to school, can't go to work. That's a big thing. So we need to make some kind of impact for those victims of that crime also. We've seen it range from petty thefts to everything. So we're seeing this expansion. So right about that same time we had Flock coming online, we did ask the mayor and got budget approval to purchase our own server to have it on premise, so we own our own video. We don't have to go to a third-party company to have that video fed back to us or get it. We actually own the data. It's here, it's on-prem in a facility downtown. So we flipped that switch in March of this year.
Traffic cameras.
Traffic cameras. I think it was March of this year, and it was almost immediate we started seeing dividends. I mean, it was going back just immediately, detectives are flooding my intelligence unit now with requests for video, just constantly on everything. So I say that, yeah, that's a problem, but it's a really good problem because now we have something we can go back and help our officers and our detectives solve crime, from violent crime down to a petty theft. I mean, it's amazing, the influence. So I've talked about that. I've talked about flock. I've talked about our traffic cameras. We have other camera access to other businesses within the community, and that's been fantastic. The problem with that is if you have a web browser or you open 35 tabs across the top of your computer, it's kind of hard to navigate and remember all those. And if it's like anything else, it times out after how many, 20 minutes? So you got to have a login. Well, everybody's got to have a login. Well, that guy that happened to have the login for one of your businesses particularly maybe was off that day. Maybe he's on a beach, maybe he doesn't have his phone with him, and now I can't get to that camera system. So that's an issue. So we started looking at an aggregate company, a technology company called FUSUS. And what they do is they take every video and any technology and put it into one pane of glass. So I can look at it on my phone at home while I'm sitting on the couch. I can look at it on my computer anywhere within any of our web page or our web Wi-Fi downtown. I can get on and look at anything. I don't have to have all those specific logins for all these different things. So it integrates all these cameras from all across the community. So right now we have all of our traffic camera network in there. We have some registered camera, which I'll talk about, integrated cameras, and also has our body cameras on there. It has flock cameras on there. So anything we want to put on, it's on one pane of glass. The awesome thing about that is that provides an audit trail. Everything I've talked about, including flock, has an audit trail. So every time I click, I do anything within that system, that is kept for perpetuity. So it lives forever. So if I have any allegations of impropriety of an officer doing something they're not supposed to, I can go back and look and actually track that. I couldn't do that when I have a login to your system because that username and password was probably shared with 30 different people. And so I can't ever tell who was in there. Now I can. That's a good thing. So we do an audit every quarter. We put that on our webpage for everybody to look at. It not only goes from my sergeant in the intelligence unit to the lieutenant review. It goes to me for review. It goes to my assistant chief for review. It goes to the chief panelist for review, to the chief, and then it's put on our website. So it goes through all those layers. And then independently of that, our public integrity unit does its own independent audit of us and the system every year. So we have a very robust oversight of the actual system. So FUSUS has been a game changer. We actually started that in July, and we're actually fully up and running. Right now we have about 644 cameras integrated. That is about 628 cameras from the traffic camera network. That's 135 intersections we have. So if you see the little spaceship thing that's hanging up in the intersection, it's white, that's actually got 4 cameras on it, and then the little bubble below it is a PTZ. Not all intersections have that PTZ, so that'd be a total of 5 cameras, but all intersections have at least 4 cameras. So that's how you can do the math and figure all that out. And then we have a few businesses downtown that are starting to integrate right now. We have another large business partner here in town that should be coming online hopefully in the next couple weeks. They have all their equipment and they're going to start their integrations soon. So let me talk about what that looks like. So registered cameras. Registered cameras are free. You can take your phone out right now if you want. You can get on connectlex.org and all this information is there. It is free for you to register your camera. It could be at your residence. It could be at your business. It doesn't make any difference. I will tell you this. I don't want to see any live feed from anybody's house. Nobody should want to give us live feed from their house. That is your house. That is your castle. We don't need to see what's going on there. But what would be nice to have is if there is an incident that happens in your specific neighborhood, we would have a list of who has a camera there. All that does is provide us a link to get the detective to you quicker. It enhances efficiency. It's precision policing, which is what we want to focus on. We don't want to stop every black Camry or white Camry that we see that's maybe potentially involved in a crime. We want to stop the one that's involved in that. So that's where we get into the precision policing. So I don't see any of those cameras, or I can't see any of that video unless you share it with me. So a registered camera, it takes about 60 seconds to register or less. If you've ordered anything on your phone, it would probably take you about 30 seconds to do it. It's your name, your address, how many cameras you have, and a good email address and a phone number. That's it. So if we have a crime happen, let's say right here, and this was in a somewhat residential area, there's a crime happen here, I just draw a circle on the FUSUS map. It pulls up every registered camera. I type out an email that says, we had a crime happen in this area. Would you mind checking your cameras on this date and this time? If you see something, would you just upload it? Provides a link. So that link would just send that video right back to us and we'd be able to review it. So you can do one of two things. You can share that video with us, or you can ignore the email. I'd never know the difference. So you are the one that has to participate and share the video with us. I can't come get it from you or anything like that. So That's the first step, which is registering, which is free. The second is integration. Integration, I think, is where we see our businesses, specifically downtown or into congested areas, but we have a lot of population and a lot of people walking around. That's where we want to see the businesses buy in. So there's a small cost. A FUSUS core device costs about $350 initially, which includes a core device, and then it's a $150 subscription to pay for the licensing and things like that. That licensing fee continues every year, but the actual box, you own it after you purchase that. But that gets you 4 cameras. You look inside this business, I don't know how many cameras there are actually in this business. I set my timer so I wouldn't go over, but Bodge ran early, so I think I got 10 more minutes.
Yeah, you got some
Okay,
more
good. I didn't want to go over. I want to be respectful of your time. But I may not need a camera in the back until there's an issue. If there's not an issue, then it's never going to be in play. But if you have somebody come in with a gun, so we go to Old National Bank in Louisville, I'm sure they didn't have any issue or any need to have video cameras or even anybody to look at those in their conference room until somebody showed up with an AR-15 and started shooting people, then that's a problem. Then that'd be something the police would be nice to have. But outside cameras are what we really want. Things where public view is, where people are congregating, coming and going, that's where we really want to see, maybe in the lobby or something like that. The good thing is you can pick what you want to share. It's not an all or nothing thing. There's also other permissions within the system that if you don't feel comfortable, say we've heard a few businesses downtown that are that sell alcohol that, well, you're going to look at us after hours and you're going to see us maybe having a beer after we close, and I personally don't care. The chief staff I don't think really care, but I understand that maybe that's an issue. Okay, well, guess what you can also do? You can set permissions of times that we can actually see that. Or you can set it where nothing actually can be seen until a call for service goes out to that specific address. So it also integrates our CAD system. What it would do, it would recognize whatever that 123 ABC Street is, and if until that address is entered into the CAD system, that video doesn't come live. It just sits there dormant. And then if there's a call for service at your facility, that would drop that firewall, and we would be able to see all those live cameras. And we'll be able to see that feed live. So I think I've hit most of the high points, I think. Let me look at my notes just to make sure if I missed anything.
Yeah, I got a few things for you.
Okay.
Yep. Can you talk about cost for that core device for integration and how that would be linked up?
Yeah, so I mentioned that a little bit. So it's $350 to start with, which is a small core device. I'm trying to think this is the sweet spot. That we get 4 cameras. They say it will give you 4 cameras. I can tell you it will give you more. We can actually jam more cameras in that. So what that also does is gives us a 3-day recording. And I say a 3-day recording is a 3 to 4 day, which is good because a holiday weekend or a weekend where we can't get a hold of somebody, that just allows us to go back and pull that video that's recorded. It stores actually on that device itself. And after that, if we had a crime happen out here in a parking lot and somebody here owned this business and it was a week later, we would have to come to you and say, hey, can you provide us this video? Can you go back and look in your DVR and see if this video still exists because we can't see it? So that's the cost of the core device. The more cameras you have, the more expensive it does get. It does get a little bit more expensive. So if you have something, 100 cameras, they will actually have to build a specific core device for you, but that's actually happening right now. If you have any questions regarding that, and I can give you my email address, be more than happy to hook you up with the right people with FUSUS. They are spectacular. If we have issues, I call one person and it's handled very quickly. Their customer feedback is amazing. Once again, been buying stuff for the police department for a long time. I haven't seen this kind of customer service in any kind of company we've ever dealt with, so they're very good.
Downtown Lexington Partnership announced a grant.
Yes, DOP has a grant program started right now for anybody within that district downtown. It's a $200 grant that you can apply for. It's live on their website to help defray some of that cost. So that would get you essentially half off the first year, and then you would pay $150 then after. But once again, to get you those 4 cameras, there is a money set aside, and I believe that there's actually going to be some more money that's going to be put into that probably next week from the city side. So that actually is growing to get more businesses online. All that does is just allow our officers to get specifically the right information, the right intelligence to the officers that are responding. I will tell you that human beings, including the police officers, do not give very good physical descriptions of what's going on in an incident where you're stressed. Because usually after you've seen this, you're stressed, and you're like, what just happened? And you're like, oh, crap, that was a crime. And then, oh, what were they wearing? Oh, I don't remember. And you just get a general description. So that's where we stop every specific person that looks like this, every specific person dressed like this, every car that looks like this. What our real-time intelligence center is developed to do is to log in as soon as a crime happens, go to those cameras, provide the right, or pull the exact information out of there, snap that, and send that out to the detectives and or the officers that are responding to that call before they even get there. Provide them that real information where somebody said they went south on Broadway. No, they didn't. They went north. I saw the car. It just passed our flock LPR. Here's the license plate of that car. Here's a picture of that car. Instead of going to find that white Camry that you may see 30 of when you pull out of here today, only one of them was involved, but we only want one of them. We don't want to have the negative contacts, potential negative contacts with other citizens, and we don't want to bother people that aren't involved. We want to go specifically to those people that were involved in a specific crime.
Can you talk a little bit about the Real-Time Intelligence Center? You brought that up a little bit.
I did. So I didn't hit on that. So all this is fed into our Real-Time Intelligence Center, which we started about a year and a half ago, about this same time. And it's grown over the last year and a half. It's got great big TVs and a lot of computers and some very intelligent folks that are driven to go find these folks that are involved in crime. We based our Real-Time Intelligence Center off of Cobb County. We did a visit down there 2 years ago, which Cobb County is just slightly north of Atlanta. Atlanta and Cobb County, in that area, there's where Flock is headquartered, and also FUSUS is where it started. So these folks have been in the game for a while and developed a few things. I will point out that Cobb County also had developed their Real-Time Intelligence Center and their technology package, if you will, which is Flock, traffic cameras, and FUSUS, to also focus on their violent crime. Over the last, in March of this year, they did a 2-year study, and they have solved 100% of their homicides in 2 years. So statistics, I've been in school before, I was like, okay, I can do a little bit with the stats. Maybe they had 3 homicides. They have 38 homicides. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. So we'll talk about a little bit about the participation of people that are witnesses to crime that don't want to participate. Most of that is because of retaliation, maybe the word or the name you would get on the street of being a snitch. Well, what a better way for us to have somebody participate in the criminal justice process without having to potentially get on the stand and get grilled or have to relive a violent offense again that they witnessed. All they have to do is give us a little information that said, I saw this at this time, and we can go back to the camera system that's all integrated as a mesh network, pull that video, and then take that video of the person that committed the crime and said, there you are because you're on the video. Then well, I know you because we graduated together, so I can point to you, point to people that I know. So what a better way to help the community out, to get more participation. That people that may not will come out and say, hey, my name's Matt Greathouse, I saw this and I saw them do that. That's a big thing right now in the world of the violent crime. If you just give us a little information, we don't have to have your name necessarily. We don't have to have you come in and verify what you saw at the time because it's all on video. That's a great way for us to provide service to the victims of violent crimes and other crimes within our community, and that's what we're driving towards.
Yep. I think the biggest part of that was the efficiency and the precision policing of what we're really looking at. The tips that you talked about, it's a great rollover for Kristen to come up and talk a little bit about Bluegrass Crime Stoppers and how that this is also playing a role. Kristen's a big part in the chief's office and her role with Bluegrass Crime Stoppers. She comes as a robbery homicide detective from that position into Bluegrass Crime Stoppers. So, Kristen, give your perspective there if you don't care how this works.
So if you're all not familiar with Crime Stoppers is made up of a board of community members whose sole goal is to make it more, to provide tip money basically to people that may have witnessed a crime, may have been in a place where a crime occurred, but like Chief said, are scared of retaliation or for whatever other reason don't want to come forward, maybe don't want to stay in the area as they wait for officers to respond just out of fear. So my role is to kind of get those crimes out to the media so that the community can see that they occurred and kind of people know that, you know, this is what happened, we're asking for some assistance, and there is a way for you to remain anonymous and give us that information without any fear of retaliation. Recently, we have had a lot of success with the Real-Time Intelligence Center and FUSUS. It's making things even more efficient for Crime Stoppers as well as detectives. I don't know if any of you have seen in the news recently that a Crime Stoppers tip was directly responsible for the arrest of a homicide suspect over the weekend in Arizona. The homicide occurred right out front here, I believe at Cookout. just under a month ago. And so that was a direct result of somebody seeing that we had featured him as the most wanted person on Crime Stoppers, and then they were able to provide information that led our detectives to work with the detectives there to go ahead and apprehend him. And it's not always things necessarily that exciting. We've had cases where I've been able to get footage from traffic cameras in the Real-Time Intelligence Center, and officers have said to me, you know, we have this reckless driver on a motorcycle, he's constantly on campus, he purposely bent his license plate so that we can't identify him. Well, we were able to get some photos. He had taken his helmet off at a red light, and we got some photos from the traffic cameras, put that on Crime Stoppers' Facebook page. The next day, somebody had identified him, and detectives were able to take out warrants and go ahead and have him arrested. So, you know, Crime Stoppers works with the Real-Time Intelligence Center with the cameras just to make it more efficient, just to get those photos that a detective will come to me and say, hey, I'm at my wit's end with this case. I have no more leads. I have nothing. You know, can you put it on Crime Stoppers? And I'll say, well, what photo or videos do you have? And they say, well, I don't have any. What am I going to show the media? What am I going to show you all in order for you to help, to assist us, or for people to say, hey, yes, I was in that area. I may have seen this person. I can submit a tip. Now, with the help of the cameras and FUSUS and the RTIC, those videos are more readily, instantly available, like Commander said, for me to get out to the media, for people to see that say, hey, I did see this car, I did see this, and this may have had something to do with that crime, and then they go ahead and submit that tip anonymously through Crime Stoppers. So again, it's just a way, it's another tool for detectives, and like Chief said, I spent 4 years in robbery homicide prior to taking the Crime Stoppers position, and I can tell you, when you have something occur in the middle of the night and you're knocking on doors, walking down streets because you're like, that person has a camera, that business has a camera, but that's not efficient. You know, people are asleep. 9 times out of 10, even if the business is open and they have a camera, that employee has no idea how to access the camera. They don't have the password. They tell us to come back tomorrow. It could be days before the detective is actually able to obtain that footage, and then that lead is gone. Or maybe by the time you're able to get the footage, it recorded over because they don't, you know, they don't pay to keep the footage. Or so this is just a way that the detectives can get some of the information they need instantly to continue to follow up, to continue to identify suspects and help solve the crimes.
Great. Thank you, Kristen.
I have a couple more things.
Okay.
While she was talking, I wanted to bring up a few other things. So she was a homicide detective, and I can tell you over the last 24 months, when we've started this real-time intelligence center, for us to develop a suspect in a violent crime, so let's call it a murder, was taking days. If we got lucky, you could get somebody in about 8 hours. You might have an idea. That may be somebody that saw something, that witnessed it, that wanted to come forward and share it with you. Over the last, just this year, these specific homicides, we've been able to develop suspects within hours. And that's extremely important because we've made some significant arrests, and if it wasn't for the fact we didn't have recordings or pictures of some type, those crimes would not be solved and they would still be open. So it's extremely important. So we've talked about a lot of violent crime. One thing we haven't talked about, and you jogged my memory, on Sunday, we had an assistant chief who had a friend of his through church. Their child ran away from home. Couldn't find them, so he called me and said, hey, can you help maybe try to find this? Do you have access to these cameras at home? Like, yeah, I've got traffic cameras. I can try. So I did. If I can figure it out, then I can tell you these new kids that are coming on can definitely, they're whizzes at this. The significant part about that was he went to 4 different businesses. Nobody could get into the camera system at all. The LP person was gone for the day at one place. The LP person, loss prevention folks, were gone from another place. The other one gas station, they don't have the credentials. Sorry, I can't get in. I have to call my manager. You have to come back tomorrow. The other one, they have cameras and they're not even working. So I say all that because we're trying to find a missing person to get them righted back with their family. That, to me, is more important in a way than some of the violent crimes. We want to be able to get those folks back. Our flock system has been extremely instrumental in finding folks that are experiencing dementia. We've found 13 of those, I think, and most of those have been from outside our jurisdiction and our state. We had one lady from Ohio that went to take her dog to the vet that was gone for 24 hours. They said, we think she might be in your community. Would you mind checking? We pulled up our flock camera, saw that she was in our community. Within an hour, we had her stopped and had her family en route back down to find her. Other than that, she had no phone, no way to track. They just had a wild guess that she might be down here, and she was. She was on News Circle, essentially just going in a circle. but we were able to reunite her with her family. You reunite somebody from Florida this year, somebody from Louisville from this year. I mean, those are the things that doesn't really get a whole lot of media attention, because the violent crime is, if it bleeds, it leads. It's going to be all over the media. But those good things that we're doing, that our officers are working on every day, that's what we want to see. And for the very few officers we still do have here that want to work, I can tell you, all we have to do is give them just a little bit of a lead. These homicide detectives, they are hungry. We want to put people in jail that perpetrate crimes in our community. All we have to do is give them just a little bit of a lead, and they're going to run with it. And that's what this system's doing.
Yep. A couple brief comments, and we'll open up for some questions. I will say we have seen tremendous results of what their passion, what they've been speaking about hasn't. You can watch our press releases. We are putting out that FLOC and FUSUS and community partners are helping us solve crime. Violent crime was our target. Knock on wood, we are seeing a decrease this year. It's not just with us. I'll give Divine Crime and One Lexington a shout out as well. There's a lot of other community programs and partnerships that are working through that. But this technology is making a big leap. So the ask of you is two things. 3, if you're a business owner and you're interested in logging in. But 1, when it comes up at council, and we're asking if you believe in this system and you're seeing the results, let your council member know that you support this. We have a lot of very small minority group that speaks out against it. There's an overwhelming majority. We've seen in some studies that we have conducted here recently for FLOC that the majority of our community understands and supports it. We'll ask that you do that. Let your council member know. 2, register your home camera if you have it. That just gives us one extra lead. We will still have boots on the ground, like Kristen said, knocking on that door. If you saw the news this past weekend, there was an Airbnb that someone had a large party at. Ended up a call for loud music came in as our officers are walking up and responding at the door. Shots fired ring out. That neighborhood has had 1 call in 3 years. Probably not a lot of crime on that area, but there are several with cameras. That will help us piece all that together. That efficiency aspect of drawing that circle, sending that out to the registered cameras is huge for us. Please register your cameras on connectlex.org. We've also got the FUSUS Core application, so large businesses, small businesses. When we talk about the DLP downtown, we are looking at the bars where we have problems and we have had issues to try to partner with them on Give Our Real-Time Intelligence Center to bridge that gap between the traffic cameras. Not every intersection has a camera. If you heard what Commander Greathouse said, 135 intersections do. So that's traffic engineering. We will continue to build that out, but that public partnership of adding some of those other cameras of other places will be huge and benefit for us. What questions do you have, or what else can we address?
Do you want to talk real quick, response and incident driven? I don't think we've hit that.
Oh, yes. So part of the auditing, part of that aspect of it, the real-time intelligence center, we don't have folks in there watching those 135 cameras all day long, just kind of want to be impossible for the small group that we've got that's in there. But 2, we only respond to incidents as they are happening or being called in, or events that are there. So we're not sitting here waiting and watching for folks to go around. I could watch Camden all day and follow him to see when he's going to Keeneland, when he's going to Thoroughbred Club, and kind of. Usually I pick on John Mahan, but you're here, so I'll pick on you today. We could. But that's not what this is for. That's what the audits are there for. We understand the privilege that this provides us and the opportunity for the solving crimes, and that is the direction. And we're very clear on what our intentions are in our policies, which are all online regarding this as well. So,
And by the way, next month's episode of Your Lex PD is going to be in the Real-Time Intelligence Center. So if you tune in on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, eventually we're going to have a podcast on that as well. But tune in, and we'll actually get visuals for everything that Commander Greathouse has talked about today as well.
we're getting Badge up to kind of Officer Don status. Badge works a lot harder than Officer Don ever did, so I don't know if we'll ever reach that level or not. Little shout to Officer Don. Any questions, anything we can help address? Sorry.
I'm curious about, businesses. I think it's one thing to have a camera pointing at a sidewalk, a public area. If you have cameras inside your business, does that open up the business to any potential liability for Fourth Amendment violations, privacy concerns? Does it open them up to civil litigation, I guess would be the question.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our downtown safety group, we talked about this with several of the bars. And attorneys can argue everything. Attorneys in here, appreciate you. You can argue both sides of this fence all day long. So I would suggest go to that. One side of the fence says yes. If you have cameras, then you could have potential civil litigation that could come back in because it's showing exactly what happened. The other side, which I will argue, if you don't, I'm going to be able to make up whatever I can. So it's a balance of that fence. Some of the bars downtown have told us that they're taking out the cameras inside because of the litigation and stuff that they've got. They're also canceling their insurance, which makes no sense to me. That's to each of their own on that one. But the cameras outside is really the purpose of what we are. The stuff for the inside with the firewall, we think about schools, right? So we have an active shooter in the schools or the hospitals. I don't want to see anything going on in either of those facilities. Until when? Until I need to. That firewall drops, and then that gives us access to those cameras. So we understand that privacy concern. The business itself, I personally err on having the cameras. It's a historical event of exactly what's going on.
One of the big problems that I see when I go out and do assessments as far as cameras are commercial applications with dummy cameras. You never, ever want to do that because it's a false sense of security, and there's a lot of case law out there that actually indicates that you're providing a false sense of security. Another component of that is signage, and that's one of the things that we look at as well when we come out and do an assessment is what type of signage you have. You never want to say that something is being monitored if it's not being monitored by someone all the time. So even the verbiage on signage when it applies to cameras is important in a commercial application.
Cameras that are portable in like Lowe's parking lot. Oh,
Just since we're recording.
sure. The cameras that are like in the Lowe's parking lot and have the blue light on the top, are those just simply portable versions of the permanent cameras, or is there some other significance to them?
So they are actually, LVT is the main supplier of those. That's the company. Those are actually maintained and recorded by them. We actually looked at those a couple years ago. They're extremely expensive, I will say that. And they, if you want to get that video, you have to essentially call somebody, and they have to, then they'll look at it, then they'll provide, they're like, no, we're paying you this amount of money, this is our video, we're going to watch it whenever we want. So those are just an extra security measure. They're kind of popping up everywhere, but that is actually recorded. They are, yes, there are a few that actually have their information on it. They say they do share with the Lexington Police Department, and they have in the past, but that is not anything we have participated in or purchased.
Great question. Current legislation does not allow for any red light or speed enforcement through technology. Last legislative session was the closest we've seen come, and it was for speed enforcement in construction zones. I thought that one was probably going to be the closest it would come, but the state of Kentucky does not allow that. There's some discussion about doing we have a few red light runners here in Lexington that participate in our 17,000 crashes a year as a result, but by law right now that is not allowed.
And the systems we have in place, the flock system and the traffic cameras will not, they don't capture the right information if we ever did do that. So that would have to be a whole new camera system that would go up for any of those. And the easiest thing to say is it wasn't me driving.
Camden.
I got one. You guys talked about possibly putting cameras in schools or financial institutions, and I see value in that. But do you guys have any precedents now? Is there anybody in Lexington that's allowing you into their school or financial institution that if somebody like me wanted to get my bank included in that I could easily take it to my folks and say, hey, here's how this bank mitigated their risk or their client information security?
Yeah, Fayette County Public Schools, we have brought them in, looking to kind of get them set up with their own FUSUS account, which would link in. We've talked to several private schools that are also looking at that, and we do have some financial institutions locally that are going through this process, and Commander Greathouse will be more than happy to jump on. Very strong support of the Chamber of Commerce that has supported us through this, has jumped on board as well. So we'll be happy to talk to you about that one. We see benefits as well. That bank robbery call, we've had a few bank robberies, which is rare for us over the past year. Both of those have been solved very quickly because of our technology. that we've got in place with traffic cameras, flock, and then some cameras inside.
A couple questions that I often hear, and you touched on it at the very beginning. So do you all have a set of safety or emergency plans that a business could implement or an organization?
Okay, so we do not, I have a template that we utilize particularly for faith-based organizations. We do not actually write policies and procedures. I will tell, and I always tell companies this, do not put yours online, but there are plenty of them out there that are online that you can take and mold and make fit your particular facility. And again, simplicity is important. Typically, businesses will have a fire plan, they'll have a weather plan, but they don't have a critical incident plan. And depending on the size of your facility, and we deal with everything from mom and pop organizations that have 2 or 3 people to global organizations. And we've even done a global training through our incident training and our active situation training. But most facilities do not have that particular component. And again, keeping it simple. We can give you some guidelines with that. We just aren't going to write it for you.
The other question is how, and I think you touched on this too earlier, the assessment. Who do they contact to have an assessment done? at the
Well,
facility?
that would be me. I'm the only one that actually does it. So my email address is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you want us to come out, we can schedule that. Depending on the size of the facility, and again, we do every imaginable type of organization. Sometimes it takes 30, 45 minutes to do an assessment, and then sometimes it takes half a day to do a walkthrough. Many times it depends on the size of the facility as far as the product that we'll actually give you, or whether we just decide to go through and take some mutual notes as we go through so there's an understanding. But my email address is btowery, B as in boy, Towery, Towery, at lexingtonpolice.ky.gov. btowery at lexingtonpolice.ky.gov.
Communications is critical. You all have mentioned different data, facts about reality of what we face in our community. We're a very safe community, but we also, like every community, have challenges at different times. Is there a source within the department that people could go to get a lot of the crime information that you shared, or other types of information that would help you all as well as business to understand?
So a lot of people, it used to be referred to as LexisNexis. Now it is communitycrimemap.com. You can actually go to that website, type in an address, decide what area around, whether it's your house, your business, or whatever, you want to know about. That is actual information. It's not hearsay. So if a police report was generated, you would be able to gain access to that, and also can sign up for notifications and emails. So again, that's if a police report was generated. So if someone comes to your house for a false alarm, that's not going to be on that information. If they come to your house to take a burglary report, it will. And you'll get to decide what information you want. I typically don't recommend putting down accident reports because you're going to get a lot of information on that. But obviously larcenies, violent crimes, different things like that, you would want a notification of. But it's communitycrimemap.com.
In that community crime map, it offsets the true address where the crime occurred.
Yes.
So we're not identifying victims' residence. Matter of fact, if rapes, you can choose to see how many rapes were in the general area, and it will offset that by streets. So it'll be a general block area, but none of the victims, we're not identifying them through that. Our transparency page has a ton of information on it as well regarding all the topics that we brought up this morning and then some. Nobody ever goes and looks at it, but it's all there. So there's lots of stuff there to look at as well.
Other questions? Let's give our panel here a round of applause.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
You know, one of the things that's always impressed me about Lexington is how connected the police officers are into the business community and the community in general, and what that creates is a trust. Brian, you're involved in so many different things, and others as well, from the police department and Commerce Lexington events, and people get to connect with you and find out, gee, you wear a different uniform than they do. But quite frankly, it helps, I think, everybody to get to know each other, and the word we always use is trust. So we really appreciate the role that you play in our community, and that you'll always feel free to call on us, just like you did with the FUSUS system, and we talked at length about that at a couple board meetings, and quite frankly, the liability issue was the biggest issue that we had raised by businesses. It's a logical question, and just again, how you hit it head on is very important. We want to make Lexington, we want to make Central Kentucky the most safe community to live, to raise a family, to work in, and I think these are the kinds of things that you just keep up in the game to help us to be more secure, to feel more safe, and then to be able to be a participant, a partner. So again, thank you. As I said when we started, these are typically a little bit heavier topics, and it's always great. We have a little bit smaller audience. However, it's always amazing the things that we hear after these events of how people implement the different ideas, suggestions, comments that are made at events like this. So, WealthSouth, thank you for having the vision, Jeff, team, to see the value of these type programs. And then also we can videotape them, send them out to more business members so that people can also have an idea about what's going on in our community and how they can make it, in this case, safer. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. Also, you'll see a program at your table. WealthSouth is our presenting sponsor. Our gold sponsor is Kentucky Utilities, and our small business sponsor is the Altorstric Insurance Group or agency. So thank you to all of our sponsors, but again, thank you, Jeff, and your team. With that, have a great day. It looks like this may be one of the last warm days in a while. It's going to get a little bit colder, but hey, that's fall, and you look around and the beauty of our fall is incredible. We live in a great place, and that's because you've helped make it that. So thank you for all that you do day in, day out. Have a great day.